Good morning, friends, and welcome to our live Q&A. It is a beautiful bluebird sky outside. Yesterday we got a inch of snow here at the farm. Happy April, happy Passover, happy Easter. It is spring in the Finger Lakes, and it's beautiful. So yes, even the purple violets that are blossoming are white now with snow, but soon it's melting as we speak, and it's nice and cozy here in our greenhouse. And we're starting seeds. I hope you are as well. And I'm gonna be here for the next while, the next hour, and just hanging out, and we're gonna have a live Q&A, so jump in with any questions. I'm here with lots of seedlings, a bunch of lettuce I get to thin with you, so yeah, I can't wait to jump on in. But first, I begin all of our Q&As and end them too with a poem with words of some kind. So today, our words are from Rumi. The guest house. This being human, this is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness. These come as unexpected visitors. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows, even when they violently sweep your house, even when they empty your home of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. They are clearing you out for some new delight. The dark, the shame, the malice, these thoughts, meet them all at the door, laughing. Invite them in. Be grateful for all that come, because each has been sent as a gift, a guide from beyond. Thank you, Rumi, for sharing with us your wisdom, especially in these times. And thank you so much for Forsythia sharing your gifts in these times. I wanted to open up with the fact that Forsythia is blooming. Beyond that fact, you can totally eat them, friends, and I hope that you do. So be warned, they're not sweet. They're actually just a touch bitter. So if you like endive, frisee, or any of those, you'll be like, Forsythia, you're my new favorite plant. And if you don't already love frisee, get ready. This is how we grow resilience in the cold. Lettuce in this weather would be like, I don't know, I can't do it. Our endive in the fields are like, yes, we were born for this. And so is Forsythia, and so were we. So if you didn't already know, Forsythia is totally edible. And yeah, just one common mistake. My little friend Charlie, she's 3. We were just eating them yesterday, and they're so delicious. But she discovered that, yeah, if you leave the calyx on, so check it out. If you just pull them off, and you can see how there's the sepals and the calyx and the little bit of the part where it's attached to the stem of the Forsythia, that is kind of tough and also just really complex, gross flavored, but if you pull it off without that, you're good to go. So now you know. We live on the greenest, most edible planet that I've ever had the privilege of being on. And it's all around us. And certainly we can grow it as well. So I certainly fancy myself a bit of a hunter-gatherer as well as a farmer. And I am really grateful that these foods grow all around us, but also that I get to grow my own food, because I'm pretty excited about lettuce and all of our ancestors that have selected lettuce for generations, for millennia. So let's talk. You can totally be sowing lettuce now, friends, and we've been sowing lettuce for a couple weeks now. This is actually our second succession of lettuce, and you can see they're just getting their first true leaves, and we grow them in soil blocks. So I want to share with you a little bit about soil blocking and a little bit about, cell trays and 6-packs. And again, this is live Q&A, so I'm woefully capable of a monologue, but I'm here to learn as much as I am to share. So please jump on in if you have any questions. And yeah, soil blocks are amazing because, imagine you've all seen in 6-packs and cell trays, they're covered, they're surrounded, the perimeter is plastic. And so when roots hit that, they just start to run around it. And when roots for millions of years have evolved when they hit the air to turn around and go the other way. So all of a sudden these plants in soil blocks, whoa, they naturally air prune, it's called. So soil blocks are a brilliant way to start seeds. And I see we have a question from Sophia. Welcome, Sophia. So I'm delighted to jump on in. What is the best soil to use for your soil blocks or when moving soil blocks to pots? So here's the general rule. More nutrients is more life. And so when you're transplanting, when you're starting any kind of seeds, you want to use the highest quality soil you've got. And certainly when you're transplanting up, when you're potting up, that's a whole opportunity to just kind of give them a fresh, clean slate / a huge, massive trough of food. So get the very nicest, richest, compost-based, the most nutrient-dense soil you've got. And that's what goes for no matter how you're starting seeds, in what context, and certainly when you're potting up, you're giving them this opportunity to, yes, here's a whole new, lay the table wide for them with all the food, all the nutrients. And I wanted to show you this. We have this awesome DIY mix. It's a DIY potting mix, and they're minerals. So these are all the minerals. I wish you could feel how heavy they are. These are all the minerals that generally aren't in potting soil because they're expensive. And so we put them all in this little box, and then there's a recipe on the back, so you can add your own peat and perlite, and there's a whole recipe on back, so you can find other very easily, more accessible, very economical ingredients and make your own really nice potting mix. Honestly, if you can find Coast of Maine, amazing. We love Vermont compost. Their Fort V mix is the dream. We've sold out of what we have to share online. But honestly, we use this all the time, and this is why we made it to share as well. So yeah, you don't want to skimp on the nutrients for your tender little babies. It's one of the ways early on that, people, and I'm totally a penny pincher myself, but it's just not a place. It's how can you leverage your dollars to have the biggest impact and amplify your abundance throughout the season? You want to have the most beautiful plants, and they come from the most beautiful soil. So backing up a bit, Kelly S., I'm back for more fruition wisdom. I'm back for you, Kelly. Forsythia's been up around my neighborhood since mid-March. Harvested my first lettuce and breakfast radishes this week. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Kelly, that sent shivers down my spine, and that's all I needed for breakfast. That and forsythias. Oh, so thank you. Roberta says, I can't get soil blockers to not fall apart. Soil blocks to not fall apart. So let's talk. I'm so glad you mentioned this because people ask all the time. And you need a potting mix that is very high, 50% minimum, coconut coir or peat moss. So not all, so you can grow any plants in any soil in 6-packs. But as soon as you are soil blocking, you need a soil that is at least 50% peat moss or coconut coir. And that breaks my heart because neither of those are particularly renewable. Peat, there's nothing even vaguely renewable about, but both of those materials can compress greatly and still maintain airspace, pore space. And so with that compression, they can hold together beautifully, just like this fabulous little soil block, and they'll be just fine. So yeah, if you have if your soil is plenty moist, and literally when you're putting soil in 6-packs or other classic containers, you want to have it be moist, but it doesn't necessarily need to be more wet. We actually, with our soil blocking soil, we have the soil pretty wet. So literally I'm picking up a handful and there's droplets falling out, that wet. And so if your soil is that wet and you're really compressing in, every time I'm making soil blocks, I'm really pressing in with my fingers greatly. And not too much, but you want them to be solid and compressed. And then you pop them out. It's so much fun. I've been doing this 20 years now and I'm still not over it. And so yeah, if your soil blocks are not holding together well, Roberta, I highly recommend that you either add more water, and then if they're still not growing well, get a different soil that's more high proportion peat moss or coconut coir. And again, this DIY mix, and it has the recipe on back, is totally set up for soil blocking. So you'll knock it out of the park. And Kelly asks, any tips for ground cherries? Do I just treat the seedlings same as tomatoes? Yes, and so yes, you treat them at the same as tomatoes in that you want to start them 6-8 weeks before frost. I recommend 6 is honestly totally fine. You don't treat them like tomatoes in that tomatoes are kind of crazy. The stem of a tomato can be buried and turn into roots. Isn't that amazing? I'm going to say that again. The stems of tomatoes you can bury and they turn into roots. They're one of the most resilient plants on the planet. But no other garden vegetable is going to do that, with the exception of potato does that. But any other eggplant, pepper, lettuce, anything else you do that with is going to be like, thanks, I'm going to just die now. So ground cherries, if you bury their stems, they're totally going to die too. So as you're potting up, and our tomatoes are just this tall, we start them at the very beginning of April here in Zone 5. So stay tuned. In the next week and the week after that, I'll be talking a lot about potting up tomatoes and ground cherries. But yeah, so they're similar timing to tomatoes, but you pot them up more like peppers and eggplants, where when you pot them up, you're maintaining their bottom where they sit with the soil. You're maintaining that level as you pot them up. And I'm so glad you're going ground cherries. And Joe, hello Joe. Joe asks, how do you keep soil blocks from drying out, like immediately? Yeah, great question. So check it out. So when you're popping them out of the soil blocker, they're all right next to each other. So check out this. They're all really close to each other. So the ones on the edges are going to dry out faster, which is true for 6-packs or cell trays or anything. The edges always dry out faster. But the ones in the middle, if you keep them nice and close, and you can totally have them basically adjacent to each other, because although the thing that's glorious about soil blocks, they have these edges that are air, and so they naturally air prune and plants just don't get root bound. But it only takes like a fraction of a millimeter of air for plants for the roots to root prune, to air prune. And so you can be confident that you can literally just go, they can be basically adjacent to each other. And it might look like they're totally close together, and they are, but for your plant's roots, they'll effectively be far enough away. So in that way, you can see how close these are. We have them adjacent to each other. And I mean, we have them actually, this base that we have them on, this is corrugated plastic, clear plastic. It's basically the end wall of our little greenhouse here, the leftover pieces of it that we didn't throw away because we thought, well, maybe there's a use for them one day. And turns out they're fabulous for holding these. And everything, so we have them right on the heat mat, and we're overhead watering. So yeah, soil blocks definitely dry out, but honestly not as quickly as even 6-packs, because even though they might dry out on the edges, the soil is compressed so much that it maintains moisture in the middle of these soil blocks way more effectively than cell trays, 6-packs, other kinds of containers. So yeah, awesome question. And that's another, like the peat moss and coconut coir, why they make it work for its soil blocks. It's not only the compression so they stay together, that compression allows all of that surface area to actually maintain moisture that much faster. So still, you want to be bottom watering and overhead watering as you need to. I always like to let the top of our soil blocks get dry before we water again, just the barest millimeter of dryness, and that will prevent the algae that can sometimes grow on the top. So great question. And Jessica's watching. Hello, Jessica. And Laureen, hello. And Lou Jean, oh my gosh. And Jenny says, I hope this is recorded. It freezes a lot. Oh, it's definitely recorded. So if you want to enjoy the recording and so much more, I tuck these into our Seed Starting Academy, which is all online. At this point, there's well over 6 hours of video tutorials there already, in addition to our Q&A. And so it's all about seed starting, both indoors and outdoors, and transplanting and succession sowing throughout the seasons. And it's a $100 course that we just made free a month ago because we all need this way more than ever. And gardening grounds us in chaotic times, and generosity is, oh my gosh, it just lays bare. And what else are we doing with our lives? So go ahead and you can find it on our website, fruitionseeds.com, and under resources, online courses, you'll see our Seed Starting Academy. join the link. It's there for free. And yeah, you'll see I'll hit record or save at the end of this. So you can definitely jump in and join it there and enjoy the rest of the hours worth of videos. Oh my gosh. I know people either have tons of time right now or no time in the world. And whoever you are, wherever you are, I love you. And I'm right there with you. And Roberta asks, I use seeding soil, but it does not hold together with the blocks. Yeah, so you want with the soil blockers, you just want to be sure that it's really high in coconut coir or peat moss, and otherwise they won't have the compression. So that is so key. And Jenny asks, are you open Monday? We're not. We're actually yes, we're open on our website, right? And as far as our farm store right here at Fruition, we are closed this year. Very sadly. We're generally open on weekends between 10 and 2 with our organic transplants and seeds and tools and all the things, and online or on-farm classes, which are the best. But this year we've canceled it all. We do have pre-orders for our transplants, so if you live locally and can come pick them up, you can actually come pick up the first 3 weekends in May. We're doing a curbside pickup of our organic transplants, and all by pre-order. You can pre-order them on our website, fruitionseeds.com. But thanks for asking. We are open in this way that you and I and we all are open and engaging with each other right now, but otherwise our barns and seed storing and packing and shipping barns are just our 6 Fruition employees and that is all. And Joe asks, it's playing here fine, so it should be good in the replay. Yay, it's true. And Vincent says, hi, Petra, hi. I love you, Vincent. I can't wait to munch my first Scythia. When sowing multiple seeds in a block, is it advisable, inadvisable to transplant the extra seedlings when multiples germinate? Does moving them cause damage? Does it make it not worth the painstaking effort? Vincent, an astute question. I would expect nothing less. And so much depends, as a wise poet once said. But it depends. If you really want every single one of these lettuce, and yeah, let's talk about thinning. I'm totally here to thin lettuce. Let's do this together. When it comes to thinning, it is so essential to thin. Whether you divide them, whether you simply eat the smaller ones, just however you do it, do it. And if you don't have that many seedlings and you're really attached to having all 3 of these beautiful Plato 2 romaine lettuces growing in your life, you can totally separate them. And have them grow as individuals. So instead of having only one grow after you eat 2 microgreens, you'll have 3 heads of lettuce in 5 weeks. So certain plants, and lettuce is one of them, will really thrive being transplanted like that. Lettuce has a root system that's like, yeah, whatever you need, we're here to go. You can direct seed lettuce, you can transplant lettuce, you can transplant. I can literally open this up and tear them apart. They can have barely any soil on their roots, and I can reroot them and they'll be fine. So lettuce, kale, honestly, tomatoes are very similar. They're very amenable to this breaking apart and repotting in the transplanting, so you can effectively be thinning and having your cake and eating your lettuce too. Something like peppers and eggplants, at this stage you could do that, but as soon as they get bigger, they're like, I don't know, that was way too much. And a lot of flowers too, and a lot of herbs honestly are like, that was very uncomfortable. Do you really expect me to surround you with abundance when you're treating me so poorly? And so you want to kind of know what plants can handle the manhandling, or the Petra Page manhandling. My last name is Page Man, for those of you who don't know. So yes, awesome question, Vincent. And as you are thinning, it depends on the variety. But your lettuce, your endives, any of your brassicas are going to be totally fine, and tomatoes also totally fine. So instead of thinning, as I'm about to do, you could totally separate these and put them in their own individual containers. But if you want to just eat microgreens, which I do for this moment, you can thin. And the good news, so let's talk about thinning, because thinning is not the easiest thing in the world. Because you're killing plants. I mean, I guess I'm growing this lettuce to ultimately eat it and kill it anyway. So there's kind of this interesting tail chase that happens. But here's the thing. You want to be thinning this plant because, holy heavens, pretty soon they're going to be competing with each other below the ground, in your soil, and above the ground for the light around them. And they're all going to be stressed. And as a general rule, younger, unstressed plants are much more abundant than older, stressed plants. And so anything that you can do to not stress a plant or yourself is just that much better for the world. So thinning becomes this essential art, this essential science, this essential act that is one of the hardest things to learn as growers, as gardeners. We love to see life flourish. And so like coming to terms with the fact that life is sometimes promoted by death is like something that we're all grappling with deeply, personally and collectively. And thinning is just this microcosm of it, right? So, so without further existential ado, I'm gonna thin this soil block. So I have 3 lettuces here, and I want there to be 1 lettuce. The best, most vigorous, most robust, the healthiest lettuce that is currently there is going to remain there, and the other 2 I'm going to eat. And the good news is most thinnings you can actually eat. So one thing, how to decide which to select out. The smaller ones, all right, it wasn't as vigorous, we're selecting against it. And I just clip it, I kind of snap it so it's just above the root system. If I'm uprooting the root system, I'm disturbing the root system of the plant that I do actually want to be saving. So that's why I go for, just clipping right above and snapping right above the soil. And then, oh, this is tricky. These 2 are right in the middle, so you want to be also selecting a plant that's right in the middle. And then you want to be selecting the shortest, stoutest, yet most like vigorous one. So sometimes the taller plant is the one you want, but in this case, the shorter plant is actually more robust and has its second true leaf coming on and is just a little bit healthier. The other one is just a little leggy. So being honest with yourself about what is health and what is legginess is really important. So this slightly leggy one, even though it's taller, ooh, and I totally got some of the root system there. But here's the thing about this root system, it's also delicious. The lettuce roots are totally delicious, as well as the leaves, for now. And so, yeah, now we have a perfectly thin, and this is the perfect stage to be thinning your transplants, when they have that one true leaf just beginning to emerge from the cotyledons. So fun, let's talk about cotyledons for a minute, and then I've got to jump into, I'm sure you have so many other questions for me to read. So yeah, this cotyledons are the first leaves that emerge, but they're not true leaves. They're in fact kind of, so cotyledon is the word for primordial leaf in Latin, and dicots, there's monocots that have 1 leaf in their seed, and dicots have 2 leaves. And dicots have those 2 cotyledons that then first emerge, and they photosynthesize, but then as soon as they are growing true leaves, they turn yellow and fall off, no matter how healthy and well-fed they are. So in lettuce, it's a little harder to see because they kind of look like true leaves. Take a look at this rapini, on the other hand. The cotyledons of all brassicas, and brassicas include everything from broccoli to cabbage, collards, arugula, and they all have these kind of shaped leaves as cotyledons, and then their true leaves emerge. So you want to be sure that you're thinning once those true leaves are emerging after the cotyledons. And oh my gosh, it's so bright and I can barely see. Let me jump on in. And Kelly May is watching. What? Oh my gosh, Kelly May. Make my day. And Lisa asks, I don't seem to be able to start lettuce seeds indoors. What is the best way to start them? Great question. You've got lots of options. So I personally love soil blocks because they just are so much fun. You get to put soil in these marvelous containers that are not single-use plastics and pop them out, and plants love growing in them because there's way more soil per volume, and instead of having edges that become root bound, they just naturally air prune. So that is awesome. But you can also use, if you have already on hand, 6-packs or these, classic cell trays. Honestly, lettuce is pretty amenable, and she's going to thrive in a lot of different scenarios. I also, my friend Melissa, just last week on this awesome Q&A, shared with me this awesome, a bunch of people were like, yeah, toilet paper rolls. And so this is actually a toilet paper roll that I cut, and this is little rapini plants growing in them. So I highly recommend checking that out. And if you haven't already, did you see that we actually have this, I wrote this little book. It's a 40-page book called Rise and Shine, Starting Seeds with Ease. And of course, we can all paint, but only some of us will be Renoir. And I don't claim to be Renoir of anything, but no, we're all climbing the mountain together. So this is so much of what I've learned in the last almost 40 years of gardening. And you can actually find it for free on our website. It's a free as an ebook that you can download, and it has tons of awesome seed starting information, whether it's direct sowing, transplanting, and everything in between. And so there's 15 steps for spectacular seedlings and all kinds of color photographs. With the download, there aren't as many of the beautiful photos, but you still get all the charts. If you want the full paper version with all the bells and whistles, we do have them on our website for sale too. But definitely check that out if you haven't already. And if you haven't already joined our Seed Starting Academy, you'll find tons of awesome info in there too. And I'm so excited for you to sow lettuce better, my friend. You can totally do this. And you can totally sow it directly in the ground as well. Here in Zone 5, I would honestly wait another week, 2 weeks even, to start lettuce. It will grow in the soil now, and it'll germinate eventually. But the soil is still on the cooler side, so things like arugula, peas, spinach, just fine. But lettuce, it'll take a little while for it to germinate yet, and seeds of weeds will likely germinate first. So yeah, I would wait a couple more weeks for sowing lettuce directly outdoors in your garden. But yeah, totally indoors. Give it another go. I'm so excited for you. Oh, and maybe another tip, only sow seeds twice their depth. So often lettuce seeds are really small, and sowing seeds too deeply is such a common and very easy mistake. So give that a try too. And Zena, hello Zena, Petra, some of my tomatoes are seriously purple on the stems or under the leaf. Yeah, so send me some pictures, Zena, and I can't wait to take a look. Some varieties that is actually normal and natural, but often it's a magnesium deficiency or another kind of nutrient deficiency. So take a look, send me a picture, and if I were you, I would get the biggest, nicest, most nutrient-dense soil that you can and pot them up now. And that potting them up will, so this is our DIY soil potting mix that has tons of, this is like just the minerals you need. The recipe is on back with a few other really accessible, economical ingredients. And yeah, so get a really nutrient-rich potting mix and pot those tomatoes up as soon as possible. And tomatoes, like I mentioned earlier, you can literally bury their stems. You can bury them up to their necks, to the top of their uppermost leaves, to their uppermost leaf set. And that stem will be just turn into roots amazingly. And so your plants are most likely very hungry for something. And if you can get really nice potting mix and pot them up and turn that stem into roots, I think you'll be able to curb the issue. We also have fish emulsion. If you don't already have fish emulsion in your life, it is awesome. And honestly, we only use it on our transplants for our tomatoes, our peppers, eggplants, onions, our ginger, anything that's more than 6 weeks old that is indoors with us. If it's 4 or 5 weeks and younger, they generally don't need any extra supplemental fish emulsion or nutrients, but since our potting mix is so rich, but as soon as they're older, just anything you can give them, so much the better. Great question, Zena. And Michael Hayes, hello. Hi, Petra Pageman. Can I use, oh my gosh, it's just so bright and I can't read. Can I use one of your 17-inch grow lights for 2 trays? Thank you. I'm so glad you asked. I actually brought one of them over. So here's one of our 17-inch lights, and it is the perfect size for a standard cell tray. And so here's the thing: if you're growing, you want the lights to be 6 inches above, I'm gonna move this tray. You want the lights to be 6 inches above your seedlings. And if they're above 6 inches, your seedlings are going to be stressed for light. They're going to stretch for the light. No way, no. If it's too close, we actually have experimented before. And we've made romaine lettuce. Instead of growing up like a vase, the lettuce is like flat on the ground if this light is 2 inches above, because the light is so intense. But yeah, they're good. So they're good. This is good for 1 tray of seedlings. The 17-inch light is the perfect size for this one. And I do grow 4 trays of microgreens under this all winter long, but I have them at 20 inches above the seedlings. And they're stretching. They're stressed for light. There isn't enough light for them to grow well. And so I'm rotating those trays, and they're microgreens. So I'm never planting them out into the garden. If they're leggy and long, that's actually kind of awesome. So I grow 4 trays of microgreens under the 17-inch light that we have on our website. And that's awesome, but as soon as I'm actually growing plants that I don't want to be stressed and that I want to be healthy and going out into our garden, it's 6 inches above for just 1 tray. I'm so glad that you asked. And if you want larger trays, our friends at Happy Leaf are folks that make these lights. We love them. And yeah, look up Happy Leaf LLC LED lights. And they have larger lights available. Let them know that we said hi and we sent you. They'll take really good care of you. And John asks, how soon do you recommend pulling seedlings off the bottom heat when the cotyledons emerge fully, and how many hours of light do you typically run for tomatoes? 12 to 16? Thank you. Yeah, so I'll bring the light back over. This light, you want to have them on 16 to 18 hours a day of light, and it's a lot. Yes. And our lights, they come with timers so that you can just set it and walk away. I mean, you don't really walk away, but you don't have to worry about that detail. And yeah, so, and taking seedlings off the heat mat, and heat mats are amazing. We have these awesome heat mats that also are the perfect size for a single flat, a classic standard flat of seedlings. And yeah, so plants grow best at like 75 degree, if the soil is 75, 80 degrees. So if you have nothing else that's vying for the heat and love attention of your soil mat or your heat mat, you can totally keep that tray on the heat mat kind of the entire time until they go out and are hardened off, acclimating to being outside and then being planted in your garden. But if you're like us, we have all these things on our heat mats, and as soon as they've germinated, if we have other things that really need to germinate, we put them on the mat first. So it's kind of this, rotating carousel. There isn't a precise time to take them off necessarily. If you don't have to take them off, then don't. There'll be that much more benefit to them. But if you have other things that you really need to be starting on that prime real estate of your heat mat, then really you're using that heat just to jumpstart germination. And once they've germinated, you can take them off and they'll still be growing really well. But it's just, catalyzing that germination that is the dream of the heat mat. So I hope that helps. And Wendy Williams is watching. Hello, Wendy. And Kelly May says, Dahlias, yes. How long before we see some action? Water or no water? Ooh, what else makes you joyful about them? I thought you'd never ask, Kelly May. So let's talk about dahlias. So you've got 2 options for Dahlia tubers in general. You can direct sow them, you can transplant them. We direct sow them after the final frost when the soil is nice and warm. Here in Zone 5, whoa, that means early June. Wow, that feels like a long way from now. If you want to get a jump on the season, you can start them 4 weeks before last frost, a little bit earlier if you actually have a light that you're going to grow them under. But if you don't have an amazing grow light, start them just 4 weeks before your last frost indoors in containers. You want to plant them horizontally, not vertically, but horizontally. And you want to plant them in moist, really rich potting soil. and then you never want to water them again until the sprouts emerge. It's true. I've learned this the hard way so many times. Ginger and dahlias the rhizomes in general are really susceptible to rot, mold, as they're breaking dormancy. And so you really want to, if you can have them on a heat mat, amazing. And if you can have them as a little bit moist but not wet, that is also amazing. We literally let our dahlias get totally dry. We plant them into totally moist potting mix and then never water them again until our sprouts emerge. And that's just, we have been amazed. Even if they get really dry and then we water them again, we still get more rot than if we just never water them ever. So what else makes me joyful about dahlias? You can eat them. They were actually domesticated as a food crop in Montane, Mexico 2,000 years ago. Our ancestors were so genius. And I'm pretty sure they didn't have refrigerators. And so, yes, life is different. Hello, COVID-19. But I'm pretty sure we come from a long line of very resilient, totally resourceful, unbelievably creative, visionary humans that loved us and have been loving all of these generations throughout the generations, which is all to say that dahlias are edible. And you'll notice that not all of them are delicious, because the Victorians 200 years ago were like, oh yeah, how about let's just select for floral traits, and you hit what you head for if you aren't selecting for culinary deliciousness. And you're selecting for other traits, those other traits will be more prevalent, right? So we have, as a result, over 50,000 named varieties of dahlias in the Royal Horticultural Society, and they're all edible, but only a handful are actually delicious. We have 2 of them that are actually delicious, Fern, Cliff, and Star's favorite. And can I tell you a secret? Last year we actually crossed them and we have seeds that we're starting now, a few hundred seeds. And so I think we're gonna have little babies of little dahlias. And I think they're gonna be, at least a few of them, really delicious. So there, thank you for indulging me, everyone. And Kelly May, sending love to you and yours in Olympia. And Tara asked, my tomato seedlings growing in soil blocks made of Johnny's, ooh yes, they're 5-1-2 mix, organic, are about 2 inches tall now. And it's May, and the last frost in my area is May 8th, so several more weeks to go. My question is, would you give them any diluted fish emulsion between now and planting out? Yeah, I probably would. So once we pot up into 3 or 4 inch pots, and your transplants have 2 sets of true leaves, your tomatoes have 2 sets of true leaves, burgeoning their 3rd, every week then I'd give them some dilute fish emulsion. And yeah, otherwise, if your transplants are less than 4 or 5 weeks old, like these lettuce, just a couple more weeks and they'll be out in the garden. Broccoli, zinnias, basil, they're really young, less than 4-week-old transplants. But tomatoes, they're going to be way more hungry, because they're going to be in our homes way longer. So once your transplants and your tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, ground cherries, tomatillos have, those are getting their 3rd set of true leaves, that's when we begin to feed them. Awesome question, Tara. Thank you. And Melissa asks, how do you know which seedlings to thin? Yeah, so let's dive in. Here are some fabulous lettuces to thin. And yeah, in my lovely favorite soil blocking. So this lettuce, there are 2 plants. And this one is super easy. So we'll start with that one first. There's a much bigger plant, more vigorous. There's a much smaller plant, much less vigorous. I'm going to select against the less vigorous one. I'm going to pull it out. Really, I try to snap it right at the soil, but if I get a little roots, that's okay. I mostly want to leave that root system as intact as possible, so I'm disturbing the root system of the plant that I am selecting for as little as possible. And then the vast majority of things that you're thinning, you can totally eat. So I recommend eating them. I actually have a whole list. If you haven't already checked out our Rise and Shine Starting Seeds with Ease, our little seed starting ebook, there's a whole direct seeding chart among so many other things. And there's a whole section on thinnings to eat or not to eat, with a list of all the things that you can eat of your thinnings. And yeah, so that was a really easy one, right? Now let's pick out one that is not so easy. Here's one that is not so easy. And yeah, don't hesitate too. You can share a photograph on our Facebook page and like ask, which should I thin? And we can all have a conversation about it too, because we're all in this together and we're all learning. I learn from you as much as you learn from me, friends. So here's quite a cluster of seedlings, the perfect time to thin them. So there are 1, 2, 3 seedlings. And you can see in this case, so you want to be selecting for the strongest one that's as close to the middle of the cell tray as possible. So this is also a harder one, but still, like, yes, there's one plant very solidly in the middle that's like 50% larger than the other two. So I'm gonna snap these other 2 off, whisk the dirt from the roots, and have a little second breakfast. So there is a great one. It can be real. Sometimes it's totally arbitrary. And so this one is almost arbitrary. These 2 lettuces, and they're a little younger, but honestly, this is a perfect size. The younger, if you feel confident that you know which is the healthier, happier of the 2 transplants, as soon as you know that, oh man, just thin it. Don't wait for them to get any larger. Early and often is a solid policy for your thinning. So even though these 2 are basically the same size, so how do you decide? Not one isn't more vigorous than the other, you're right, but this one is more solidly in the middle of the tray. So I'm going of the middle of the soil block. So I'm going to select against the one that was off center a bit. And third breakfast, what a good day. And you want it in your seedling that you're thinning to be in the middle of the cell, because that will help the plant. You know, if it's off to the side, it will have proportionally way more roots going to one side than the other. And so it'll just be, it just helps the plant manage its growth more evenly in that context. So awesome question. And yeah, thinning is not easy, friends. So don't be shy and ask lots of questions. Kelly May says 100 people are seeing your beautiful face and passionate wisdom. Oh my gosh. And yours as well, because we're all in here together. Kelly May, make a girl blush and cry. Rami asks, do you take young seedlings off the heat mat as soon as they pot up? And what if some have popped up and the flat and some haven't? So I'm so good at reading in the sunlight, it's true. Do I leave or take it off the heat mat? Awesome question. So heat mats, the dream of the heat mat is just quick germination. So as soon as you have germination, that was really the biggest limiting factor that has suddenly been released since you had those seedlings on a heat mat. If you don't have anything else that you need to put on that heat mat, leave them on the heat mat. They're going to grow that much faster on a heat mat. If you don't want them to grow fast, take off the heat mat because they're going to grow faster on the heat mat. But honestly, there isn't a time that's like, all right, now you need to take them off. So don't feel the pressure. You can also, and we do sometimes too, if we have some that are germinating quickly on the heat mat, we'll take those off first and pot them up, and leave the ones that aren't germinating yet on that pot, on the heat mat. And so you can, if you have the time and flexibility, you can kind of patchwork your way through your heat mat and potting up from there. But yeah, as a general rule, your plants are totally going to love being on that heat mat for the rest of their lives if they could manage it. So it's more about your time and space, what other transplants you're needing to grow in your life, as far as the timing on your heat mat. Awesome question. And Ronald says, hello from Wisconsin. Yes. And Shannon Love, hello. Shannon says, what's your favorite seedling fertilizer? As always, you're amazing. Stop it. Takes a village, and so glad we're in this village, friends. So seedling fertilizer, really just starting with amazing potting soil is one of the best things that you can possibly do for your seedlings. And so it's like if you're trying to grow an amazing garden, but you're not growing in good soil to begin with, your garden isn't going to go far. It doesn't matter how good of seeds you have. And so same is true for your seedlings and your potting mix. So make sure you have the richest, best potting mix you can possibly find. And we share ours on our website, and we also have this seed starting mix. It's a DIY mix, and I wish you could feel it. It's all these minerals that are generally not in potting mix because they're expensive and they make your potting mix expensive. All the rest of the ingredients are cheap and easy to find, which is why most potting mix and most garden centers don't have these minerals. I hope that actually made sense. Potentially it didn't. But these are the minerals that you need to make really nice potting mix, and there's a recipe on back. So you can find those cheap, easy, accessible ingredients and make your own. This container makes 80 quarts of really nice, gorgeous, really nutrient-dense potting mix. So starting with that great potting mix is your first and foremost approach to fertilizing, making sure that your plants have abundant fertility. Then once we don't feed any of our 4 or 5 week old seedlings or less. So our lettuce, our poppies, our zinnias, our basil, we just grow them in really rich potting mix and they're good to go. As soon as we're growing 6 weeks plus indoors, so those crops are tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, ground cherries, tomatillos, and those, once they have 3 sets of true leaves, are getting their 3rd set, we're giving them fish emulsion once a week, and it's dilute. So we take 1 ounce of this fish emulsion and dilute it into 1 gallon of water, and you can spray it on the leaves. Also, you can root trench with it, and it's amazing stuff. If you want to make compost tea, that's also awesome. Worm casting tea is also dreamy. And so yeah, you've got lots of different options for fertilizing. And Courtney says, hello from Southern Ohio. Yes, I was born in Cincinnati. Cheers. And Sarah asks, what exactly does thinning entail? Do you pull seedlings out of the roots if more than 1 seed germinates? So yeah, so thinning, you do need to remove plants, but you don't have to remove roots. And actually the dream of the dream is to not disturb the roots of the plant that you're not thinning, because then they'll be that much more abundant. So here's a lettuce, a tiny little Play-Doh 2 romaine lettuce, and there's this one lettuce in the middle that is the biggest, most vigorous. I'm going to choose that one. And I'm going to thin the other 2, and I'm just going to pull it gently, but try to snapping it right at the stem so it breaks off right at the soil level. Yes, 2nd, 3rd, I think I'm on my 4th breakfast. And so in that way, since I'm snapping the stem, I'm maintaining the root system that is just going to decompose of the plants that I have thoroughly beheaded. But because I've maintained the root system of that one plant that I've selected for, that means it's actually going to be happier and healthier as a result. So yeah, thinning is not easy, but it is quite delicious often, and early and often is a solid strategy. And Cheryl, welcome. So glad you're with us. And Andrew says, is it advantageous to leave the light on 24/7, or do seedlings need time in the dark to establish? And yes, awesome question. So plants need to exhale just like you and I. And instead of having like this 2-second to 4-second cycle of inhale, exhale, looking at you, Kelly May, let's make it 16 seconds. Plants are on this like 16 to 8 are on this darkness and lightness. So they're like inhaling when the light is on, and they're exhaling when the light goes off. So it's absolutely essential for photosynthesis and plant health to have that dark and light cycle for seedlings. I confess, for microgreens, they're just 10 days old. I have the lights on 24/7. They're constantly growing. Sorry guys, but I'm gonna eat you in 10 days anyway. With our lights, with our transplants that are under grow lights that we're growing for our gardens, we want them to be as healthy as possible. Healthy transplants are more abundant, they're more disease resistant, more insect resistant, and they're more nutrient dense. Did I mention they're delicious? Yes. So 16 to 18 hours of light is ideal for if you have grow lights in your life, which I can't recommend highly enough. If you don't have a glorious greenhouse, we are so fortunate to have this greenhouse. I'm so privileged to have this greenhouse. if you don't have a situation like a greenhouse, you really want a really nice grow light. And yeah, having it 16 to 18 hours is the dream. And our grow lights come with timers, so you can just keep that nice and automated and worry about all the way more important things in life, like how to thin lettuce. And Jamie asks, I'm in zone 5B. My onions germinated the other day. Yay! And when should I fertilize with fish emulsion? So yes. So onions, I know with tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, you want to start fertilizing once their second set of true leaves are burgeoning into their third set. With onions, honestly, after they've been 1 month in their flat growing, that's when I start to feed them. So, and you might want to start feeding them earlier if you don't have super rich potting mix. Pardon my fans going on and off. I'll try to remember for the future to turn them off. So I can just swelter in the sauna all by myself. But yeah, so once your onions are 1 month old is when I would start to feed them once a week. And again, you kind of like think of feeding your plants as feeding yourself and like hydrating yourself. If you're thirsty, your body is already dehydrated. So if you're hungry, your body is already like, wait a minute, I need a little more something in my bloodstream. And plants are the same way. If you're beginning to actually see the visual cues of nutrient deficiency, your plants are well down that road. So an ounce of prevention is a pound of cure. And so yeah, early and often with fish emulsion too, although we just do it once a week, so I don't recommend doing it any more frequently than that. The plants just can't uptake that many nutrients at that level. And Kara asks, living in Maine, I love Maine, and we have been without power for almost 48 hours. Is there anything I can do to help my seeds? I have on heat mats under lights, but since no power, no heat, and no, oh my gosh. Well, for the heat mats are certainly the easier part of the equation. Just find the warmest place in your home. But honestly, that could be really tricky without lights, without electricity too. Oh my gosh, this is such an important question, Kara, and I'm just so sorry. But finding that balance between the warmest place with the best light. And since your seeds, it sounds like they've germinated, the light is going to be the bigger limiting factor of the two. It's ideal, of course, to have more heat and more light, but if you have to choose and the germination has already started, it's the heat really that's making sure that the germination is as optimal and vigorous as possible. But as soon as they've germinated, they're photosynthesizing. They need light. They need to transform sunlight into sugars instantly all the time. 18 hours a day if they can. But I would find, so yeah, where is the balance of that warmest place in your home and the brightest place in your home? And certainly, honestly, on a day that if it's actually warm, which today it isn't really that warm outside, but if it's over 55 degrees, like it might be tomorrow here, then you can actually put them outside too. Just be sure that once it's dipping below 50 degrees, bring them back inside. And you don't want to have them out for more than 6 hours because they can easily sunburn transitioning from the indoors to the outdoors. But that's another option as well. And thank you so much, Kara, for sharing. And I know my heart is with you, and I think everyone who's with you in this moment now also is taking a deep breath and thinking of you and wishing you the best. And Owen asks, I'm curious about bottom watering. Yes, you are. How much water should I use? Should I float them or and then remove them? So yeah, you definitely don't want to float them. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. So basically you have, with bottom watering, you have, I can totally do it with these. So last week, Melissa Shapiro, amazing, shared with me this amazing tip about takeout containers. And so for starting seedlings, so let's talk. I just drilled a hole every inch on the bottom. There's a grid of holes now. And then I have it on this bottom tray. And so to bottom water, I actually have a few pennies in each of these 4 corners so that the bottom tray, they're not sitting right on top of each other. And then I would add just enough water so that there's water on the bottom tray, but that the top tray can still drain. And so depending on your container, depending on your heat mat, and so many variables, depends how much water you're adding and how often. But you basically just want to make sure that there's always some water on that bottom tray, and that it's never up to the level of your top tray, so that you can totally have your top tray be draining, but then there's water on the bottom, so that water is constantly evaporating, wicking up, keeping moisture right at the roots, right where you need it most, right where you want it most. And so, yeah, there's some little strategies for bottom watering, my friend. It's a brilliant strategy, and I'm so glad to share it with you. And Zena asks, Petra, so nice to see you this morning. So nice to see you. Well, hear your embodiedness on my phone. And I have another question. What do you think is the smallest container for a tomato for the 6 to 8 weeks before transplanting? Thanks. So yeah, great question. This 3-inch container is a bare minimum. And honestly, it's what we use, and it's awesome. We have 4-inch pots too, and they're great if you have larger, awesome. But this is a solid 3 inches is minimum. And so much depends though, right? If you start your seeds too early, which most people do, then they get really big and you're like struggling to transplant them and pot them up and keep them happy. You want their growth curve to be on this 90-degree, like Bernie Madoff and corporate capitalism, like this 90-degree curve just doesn't exist. But nonetheless, we really want these plants to have as much of a 90-degree growth curve as possible. So yeah, 3 inches would be the minimum. Awesome question, Zena. And Joe asks, without further existential ado, thank you for, I do have trouble thinning, yes. So I'll take just a few more questions, friends, and then I'll be here on Tuesday at 2 o'clock doing another Q&A for an hour. And then next Saturday, I'm just gonna keep doing this because I need this, and I think we all need this. So know that it doesn't end here, that we'll keep continuing to grow and evolve and laugh and learn and probably cry and learn how to do things better in the future together, because that's what we've always done as a species. And if we want to continue as a species, we will continue to lean into these skills of doing things together, even when it's not easy. So I'm totally committed to you and you growing yourself as well as your garden, as we all grow together. And I'll take this recording and tuck it into our Seed Starting Academy so you can always see it. And our Seed Starting Academy is totally free. You have lifelong access. Right now there's over 6 hours of video tutorials of how to do all kinds of things. And I have all those Q&As where I'm constantly interrupting myself and jumping between subjects, but all of those videos and the Q&As are like me telling you how to do one thing, and here are all the steps, and we're still talking about existential ados, but they're much more focused. So yeah, if you haven't already joined our Seed Starting Academy, please do, and please share with your friends and anyone else that you love, because we all need this more than ever. So a few more questions. And Denise asked, direct sow versus soil block start lettuces. So awesome question, Denise. And honestly, with lettuce, you can do both. They thrive direct sown or transplanted. Some plants, like tomatoes on the other hand, you can direct sow them, they'll grow, but you'll hardly harvest any tomatoes. So you only want to transplant them. Other things like dill and cilantro hate being transplanted. Never transplant them, never buy them. It drives me crazy that nurseries sell them. They hate being transplanted. They just bolt instantly because they're stressed. So it says on the back of our seed packets, do I have one handy? Yes, hold on. So check it out. On the back of our packets, we have growing instructions as well as a handy side tab reference. So we try our best to fit the encyclopedia on our seed packet for you. And on this handy side reference, you'll find plant spacing after thinning, days to germination, when to sow, seeding depth, all kinds of great info, in addition to direct seed or transplant. So this is spinach, and yes, spinach, just like lettuce, you can direct seed or transplant. With a tomato, this would say transplant only. With cilantro, this would say direct seed only. So on the back of our packets are those little clues but honestly, lettuce truly has no preference. And I prefer to do a lot of transplanting just because it's less weeding, and we have this greenhouse, so our transplants can be really healthy, happy really easily. But honestly, the lettuce doesn't have any preference. So have fun enjoying growing lettuce, however you decide. And Jan asked, hey Petra, I was able to get in and it took me a few times. Oh my gosh, well I'm so glad you're here. And Katie asks, have those seedlings been fertilized at that size yet? No, awesome question. So we only fertilize our seedlings like with actual supplemental fertility like this fish emulsion or compost tea, worm castings tea. Once plants are 5-6 weeks old, and specifically things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants that are older seedlings, once they're getting their third set of true leaves. Apart from that, we fertilize them in the sense that our potting mix is absolutely nutrient dense, amazing. And so we fertilize them from the beginning with just making sure that they have the most rich potting mix possible. And if you haven't already seen, we have this DIY potting mix soil. That's not soil, rather, it's minerals. So you can make your own soil. It's the minerals that generally are not in potting mix. And here is a recipe on the back so you can add some super economical, super accessible ingredients and make your own A+++ potting mix. So think of, yes, I haven't fertilized this lettuce plant yet, but I have in the sense that I'm planting it in the very most nutrient-rich potting mix that I possibly can. So awesome question. I'll look for one more question and then I will disappear for the day. Or rather, I'll hop on over to Instagram. So if you're not done with this shenanigans, hop on over to Instagram. And Tiffany asks, hi Petra, when do you typically have ginger in stock? Oh, I am new to this and just wondering. Yes, so we are out of ginger for 2020, but 2021 you'll totally have it. We'll probably start in January having it on our website. If you don't already get our emails, every week I send out a beautiful email all about organic gardening and how you can do what we do at home, and keeping you just informed and laughing, as well as video tutorials. So if you don't already get our weekly email, definitely hop on our website, fruitionseeds.com, and then once we have our ginger available, I'll send out the email that's like, get your ginger now, because we always sell out, and get yours early because I'd love to share some with you, Tiffany. And Carol asks, where do you get the soil block maker? Well, we have them on our website. We get ours from Great Britain, where they're made in England. But yeah, you can hop on our website, fruitionseeds.com. So, and friends, this comes to the end of our live Q&A. I'm sure there are so many questions that I didn't get to. I'm about to hop over into Instagram for the next hour and share a lot over there. So feel free to jump on over if you're on Instagram, and I'll see you there, and I hope to answer your question then. And if not, I'll be here on Tuesday and then next Saturday. And so I'm sharing live Q&As on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Saturdays at 10 a.m. to noon, Tuesdays from 2 to 4, 2 to 3 on Facebook, 3 to 4 on Instagram. And we're just hanging out and talking and being a community, because we are, and we need to find new ways of being together. So we are. So I love to begin and finish all of our Q&As with some thoughts, with some poems. And this morning we start and end with Rumi, the guest house. This being human, this is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes. These are unexpected visitors. Welcome and entertain everyone. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows, even if they violently sweep your house, even if they empty your house of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. They are clearing you out for some new delight. This dark thought, this shame, this malice, meet them all at the door, laughing. Invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent. as a guide from beyond. So thank you, Rumi, and thank you all for being together in this time when joys are so keen and mourning is so real and the grief is extensive individually and collectively. It is such a joy to meet all of these new and uncertain circumstances, knowing we have such an incredible community around us. So thank you for being part of the seeds that we sow, why we sow them, and the community that makes it so much more real.